yet? Okay, great. All right. So now that that technology is out of the way, we get to be human again. How are you doing? Pretty good? How many people here are freshmen? Sophomores? Juniors? Seniors? Excellent. So we've got a wide array of UM students. That's wonderful. All right. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, are we all here for Introduction to Philosophy 5101K? Everyone sure that's what you're here for? Good. My name is John Medito. I will be your instructor this semester. It is a pleasure and an honor to meet you. I am so excited and eager to meet with you every single week, twice, Mondays and Wednesdays from 6:35 to 7:50 in this room. I have been at the University of Miami for 5 years, and this is the 6th academic year that I'm beginning. So just so you can get a glimpse of what I look like, I'm going to do this. This is me. Got the mug. All right, so this broke. Got another one. So this is me. And for the rest of the semester, you'll have to use your memory or your imagination to figure out who I am. I'm in my sixth year in the philosophy department. I'm a graduate student, and hopefully, God willing, I will be graduating pretty soon, maybe even by next May. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here at UM teaching students. I've taught both Introduction to Philosophy courses, and I've also taught Contemporary Moral Issues, which is the equivalent of an ethics course. But it's an ethics course that doesn't focus only on the different moral theories of what makes things right and wrong. It's an ethics course that very quickly introduces those moral theories so that it can apply them to the real moral issues that they were designed to solve. Okay? And I myself currently am doing some research related to ethics. As we'll discover in this class, philosophy is a very rich cultural phenomenon, and from an academic point of view, it has very specific divisions or very systematic branches. And we are going to, as we go through the semester, we're going to be covering systematically some of the major big divisions in philosophy. One of those divisions is called metaphysics, which is really the study of ultimate reality. Another big division, yeah.
Sorry, the projector is just going crazy.
Really? All right. Thank you. It's not my day today, huh? So as I was saying, philosophy is very rich, very interesting. It's got very different perspectives, very different angles that it studies the world from and life and people. One of those branches is what I was saying is called metaphysics. The other one of those branches is called epistemology. So metaphysics is about what ultimate reality is, what do we mean when we call something real, or what do we mean when we talk about reality as opposed to mere appearances And what does it mean to truly be something? Those are the types of questions that metaphysicians ask. There's another branch of philosophy that some would argue should be answered before you start metaphysics, which is, wait a minute. Before we start investigating what reality is and what kinds of beings there are, and what categories of beings there are, we should first take a step back and say, wait a minute, what are we doing when we do metaphysics? What we're actually doing is we're proposing things. We're making certain claims. So if we say God is the ultimate reality, well, that's a sentence. Actually, at the most basic level, that's an utterance. Technically, that's an utterance. You just uttered something. But from a logical point of view, if we take that utterance and formulate it properly, it becomes what we call a claim or a proposition. Now, if you're going to make a claim or a proposition, that is now something that you claim to know. And so there's an entirely different branch of philosophy that doesn't ask the big questions about what really is real and what kinds of beings there are and what makes something a being. There's something that comes before that. All of those assertions are claims, they're propositions, right? So what do you have to ask before you even get around to that? You've got to ask, well, if there is ultimate reality, okay, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So that's the claim. Then you have to ask, is that claim true? Right? You got a proposition, you got a claim. And then you ask, okay, we got a claim in front of us. Now, let's ask, how can we be entitled to this claim? What is our entitlement to this claim? We're making all these claims, right? There are all sorts of claims. Some of them aren't very philosophical. Antifa is equal. COVID is the end of the world. UN students are the best. All those are propositions, they're claims. They're not the type of claims that philosophers typically concern themselves with, but they're claims. And if they're claims, if they're propositions, then if you assert them, then one thing is for sure. If you claim them, then you must believe them. But if you believe them, then we can assume that you are suggesting or implying that you're entitled to them. And that's where epistemology comes in and says, okay, you've got a claim in front of us, and you feel entitled to believe it, right? You feel like you're entitled to believe it. So let's be methodical about it. We've got a claim that you want to believe, and you want me to believe it too. So I'm going to ask, well, first of all, what is the claim? Be very clear and precise. What exactly are you claiming? Dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Once we exactly know what we're talking about, with the precision of a mathematical formula, then the next question is, okay, now that we know what the claim is, well, is it true? So you believe this thing, but belief, is belief by itself enough for knowledge? What do you think? Is knowledge just belief? Is knowledge equal to belief? If you believe something, does that mean you know it?
No.
It's something we're going to think about very deeply in this class. What in the world is knowledge? Just like we have theories about what's real, we also need some kind of theory about what knowledge is. Because if we're going to make claims about what's real, we need to know whether those claims are true and how we would know they're true. It's not enough to believe. And it's not enough even to believe something that's true. In addition to believing something and having your belief be true, some of the most ancient philosophies about what knowledge is say that in order to truly have knowledge, You have to have a belief that is true and that is also supported by some kind of reason. The name for that reason is called a justification. You know, like how someone can justify what they say. All right? So we've got a claim. If you make a claim, we assume psychologically there's something going on with you, that you have a kind of attitude towards that claim. That's the attitude of belief. Are you catching my drift? You have a kind of attitude. That attitude, you know, you guys need to remind me. I love walking around. We're going to get to the syllabus maybe this time, maybe next time. I don't know. I'm not important. But we will get around to the syllabus, and I will have to social distance myself from all of you, just like you have to social distance yourself from each other. So I like walking around and coming close to people and, you know, really interacting with you. And I'm sorry that won't happen this semester, but I hope that in your future classes, you get the same intimacy that I'm trying to give you now. Unfortunately, with COVID, I won't be able to do group work with you. No group work, and I also won't be able to give you any sort of physical handouts. I won't receive any sort of assignments from you. You see why? No physical assignments. Everything's going to be submitted online. You're going to have assigned seating, and perhaps we'll get around to that in a moment. You'll have assigned seating, and you'll have to sit in the same place the entire semester. Again, this is going to be in the syllabus. We're going to go through it thoroughly, so don't worry. But I was just checking myself, you know, because I was getting excited and wandering around. But I have to stay at least 6 feet. I don't know. What do you think? So long as I don't cross that line? What do you think? So long as I don't cross that line? That line? What do you think? Is that 6 feet? Or is it something like this? Because at least if I can walk along this way, it would be good. Or do you think I need to stay all the way back here? What is 6 feet? That's a philosophical question. I don't know. How do you measure a foot? Can you move a part of the body? This is really a question for the front row. I think everybody in the second row, I definitely won't come close to you. This is 6 feet. What do you think?
I mean, you guys asked. I think it is.
So long as I kind of stay right there?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, I love teaching and I love research. For those of you who are about to graduate or who want to be professors one day, in academics, there are 2 big ways you can earn a living as an academic. You can either specialize in teaching, or you can specialize in research, or both. So I aspire to specialize in both, but certainly my real passion is teaching. So I apologize if I get too eager sometimes. But we have all semester together, and you can chastise me and correct me when I get out of line. All right. Good. What time is it? 7:23. We have until when? 7:50, huh? Okay. We'll be a better use of time. There's a lot of detail in that syllabus, and you have to go over it. And I do have some notes for this week. But I do want to give you a kind of inspiring understanding of what you're getting into for the rest of the semester. So how about this? I'm just going to continue my diatribe for about 10 or 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to highlight only the parts of the syllabus and the course that you need to know immediately to prepare you for next class. And then next class, hopefully technology will cooperate and everything will be smooth. We'll have enough time to go through the syllabus in detail and start going through some of the actual substance of what we're going to be learning. Do you guys think that's cool? Is that cool? Is that okay? Yeah, yes?
Hi. So my friend is taking this class fully remote.
Sorry, what?
One of my friends is taking this class fully remote, and she said that she's on the Zoom call with 6 other kids in the chat. She was just wondering if she should bother waiting around. Are you gonna go back on for them, or she was just a little confused because she's just trying to listen, and she said it's not working. I can also just text her if it's not working today and let her know.
Yeah, because for the people who are attending remotely, my plan was to record each meeting and then make it available at the end of the day. So I wasn't really planning synchronous meetings. But you can tell your friend that, but I'm going to send an email explaining all of this, and everything should be clear to everyone. And then everyone should have an opportunity to send me emails and clarify everything. Is that okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, I can just talk to her after class. She just was wondering about it, and I let her know.
All right, thank you. So yeah, technically, if I were to have people join into this meeting virtually, that would be what we call synchronous. That's not what I've planned for the course. What I've planned is for you guys to come in, we record it, and then as soon as possible by the end of the day, that's made available to you and to everyone else, and then you can access it and watch it as many times as you want throughout the rest of the semester. Cool? Yeah, I'll see. I'm glad you guys are cool with it. I'll see if the remote people are also cool with that arrangement. All right. 7:26. So we leave at 7:50, right? Okay. Yeah. So I think I'll just make the rest of this time about introduction, helping you get to know me, and understanding what philosophy in the briefest sense is all about, and then finally talk about a couple of key points you need to know just for next meeting, and then we'll go through everything and sort everything out next meeting. Thank you for your patience. All right, here we are. So as I was saying, philosophy. I don't know how many have heard this word before. I'm sure most of you have. But if you really want to understand what's going on with philosophy, then the structure of the divisions in philosophy is very, very important in seeing how they're connected and why philosophy is still relevant in today's world. And also, very importantly, why is philosophy still relevant in a world where we have science? Is philosophy just one type of science? Or is philosophy something different? Has it always been different? Or at one time they're the same? And if they are different, then do they compete for the truth? Or do they only kind of each has its own magisterium, its own domain? So there are philosophical truths, which philosophy investigates, and there are scientific truths, which science investigates. These are some of the things I'm going to ask you to think deeper about. Okay? So, as I was saying, metaphysics is this concern, this wonder at the world, like, hey, wait a minute, there's all these appearances I see around me, but for one thing, if I isolate one part of these appearances, if we call one part an object or a phenomenon or a thing or whatever, metaphysics asks, well, what is that thing? Okay, does it exist? Okay? What does it mean to exist? Does existence mean it just appears? Is it the same as me perceiving something? So if I perceive something, does that imply that it exists? Anything that I perceive exists? Maybe or maybe not, because there are hallucinations, right? And during a hallucination, are you really seeing things that really exist? Probably not, huh? What about during a dream? You're perceiving things, right? Are those things real? Do they really exist? Just because you perceive them? Depends, huh? Yeah, these are tough questions. But now I think you're beginning to get a taste, a glimpse at why philosophy is still relevant. Because, yeah, science is impressive, no doubt. You know, beginning of the scientific revolution in the mid-1700s, oh my God. Physics, chemistry, and biology, they all grew exponentially in terms of the amount of data that they collected through experiment, as well as the amount of theorizing that they did to make sense of the data. You see what I'm saying? Science is amazing, and it's methodical, and it's rigorous. So some people argue that that is one type of philosophy. Scientific philosophy is one type of philosophy. Can you guys mention any members who you associate with the scientific revolution? When you think of, have you heard of the scientific revolution in history? All right. Can you mention like a couple of guys who come to mind? It's mostly guys. Maybe there are some lady astronomers too, I don't know. Might be good to investigate that. But as far as I know, in chemistry we have Marie Curie, right? So definitely in chemistry we have an amazing scientist. But when it comes to the rest of the scientific revolution, can you name some of the heavyweights, some of the fathers of science, starting in the 1600s and on? Any ideas? Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Some people would say he is like the quintessential genius. You know what I mean? Someone who is just brilliant and seems to figure things out effortlessly and just vividly and lucidly. It's like he applied his mind to astronomy and optics and all these different branches of knowledge, and he made substantive contributions to all of them. Now, he was humble, he was modest, and he was very religious. So the first thing he did is give credit to all of those who made his achievements possible. And he says, I stand on the shoulders of giants. Can you name any of those giants, maybe? Especially in the history of astronomy and the history of dynamics, the study of motion. Yep.
Copernicus?
Yeah, Copernicus. Excellent. Yeah. Absolutely, man. In fact, okay, so Copernicus is from the 16th century. He was a Polish astronomer, very devout Catholic, just a really religious guy who also had an interest in astronomy. Do you know why he's so famous? What is he famous for?
Planets on the sun or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He was someone who first proposed that the planets went around the sun. That's exactly right. That system or that model is what we call the heliocentric model of the solar system. Heliocentric means sun-centered. With the sun at the center, you build a model of the entire solar system that makes better and more elegant sense of the data than the other model, which was what? What was the other model before the heliocentric model?
I don't know the Greek or Latin term for it, but it's the earth-centered model.
Yes, it's the Earth-centered model. They would just call it the geocentric model. Absolutely right. Hey guys, what are your names? I want to get to know you. What's your name?
Dominic.
What?
Dominic Sturgeon.
Dominic?
Yeah.
Excellent, Dominic, okay. And then, what's your name?
My name is Alessandro.
Alessandro, excellent. Very happy to meet you.
Likewise.
Pleasure. So guys, yeah, Copernicus, revolutionary. Not just scientifically, guys. Not just scientifically. When you make the sun the center of not just the solar system, but you make it the center of the world, the universe, then what have you just done? Compared to the ancient models, which made the earth the center, think about the cultural implications of this kind of change. Do you have a hand up? Okay. Think about the cultural implications of this kind of change. We human beings live where? Where? On Earth, right? So if we have an astronomical model that places all these heavenly bodies and makes the heavens rotate around where we live, what does that suggest culturally? If you and your dramas and your biography and your life is at the center of all beings and all things, what is that suggesting about the significance and the meaning of human life?
That everything revolves around you.
We are the masterpieces, right? So all of those ancient models, like the Ptolemaic model, that was a model that came before Copernicus. All of these ancient models really reinforced pre-existing cultural beliefs, standards, ideals, that we are at the center of the universe. Our dramas are the most important dramas compared to the dramas of animals, the dramas of plants, geological changes in landscapes, and even the heavenly bodies. The heavenly bodies orchestrate our dramas. And that's where we get astrology from, right? It believes that whatever my character is and whatever my fate is comes from the heavenly bodies, right? That's astrology, old school astronomy. But of course, as science became more and more data-oriented, measuring things, getting more precise, that old model fell off. The Ptolemaic model fell off, and astrology became a pseudoscience, not real science. And then what happened to culture? Are we at the center of the universe now? No. Think about the cultural implications of that. If you're no longer at the center, you might suffer a crisis. Do you see why? Human life is not as significant as it was before. We're not at the center. And so it's kind of like a deflationary effect. Oh, we're just a sideshow. When you combine that with what Charles Darwin discovered, can you see how now really we might have a crisis when we enter the 19th century and later? What did Charles Darwin discover?
Evolution.
Yes. Did you have a hand up?
I just said evolution. Evolution.
Evolution, very good. The evolution of what?
Life.
All living species, right? So all living species are not static, eternal, timeless species. Whatever we are today is a product of constant evolution and adaptation to our habitat and our environment through millions and billions of years. So what we are, again, since we're not something eternal and timeless, Well, we're not that significant, once again, right? We aren't these eternal, timeless beings or timeless truths. We are products of nature, and in fact, it's even worse than that. We're not just products, we're byproducts of nature, because we only are what we are because of the contingencies that were shaped by history and by climate change and things like that. Whatever faculties, whatever anatomy and physiology we have, we only have it just because it contributes to our fitness and our survival. We don't have it because some God created us with so much care and so much perfection that we were just made to endure eternally and timelessly forever. Do you see the cultural implications of Copernicus plus Darwin as we enter the 20th century? You will have some people, at least, interpreting all of this as a loss of belief in God, a loss of belief in the significance of human life, a loss of religion, right? Because science now seems to be a new authority, right? If you want to consult the experts on the issue, who do you go to? The scientists, right? You default to the scientists as the experts, the authorities. But if that's true, then there's a competition, right? Religion makes claims about the world, and so do science. And science and religion, when they clash, it seems like our modern culture has taken sides. We have a winner. Who's the winner? Science. In fact, some people would say, when we use the words ancient, medieval, and modern as periods in history, probably the overarching, the deepest understanding of what makes modernity different is the decline in the authority of the church and of religion, and the ascent of the authority of science and reason in place of faith. All right, guys, I have to go to the syllabus and talk about a couple of technical things that you need to know, at least for next class, and I need to take attendance. All right, so I'm just going to conclude with these words. What I just gave you is a tour of some coming attractions. What's happening is that metaphysics is part of the earliest attempts of human beings to just guess or speculate at what exists, what kinds of beings there are, and to kind of systematize and organize what we think exists. Epistemology is a step backwards in saying, wait a minute, we've accumulated all these claims, how to sort them out and figure out which one is real, which one is valid, which one is true, which one is pseudoscience, which one is false, which one is just con artists. So epistemology, metaphysics is a theory or a study of reality. Epistemology is a theory or study of knowledge, the conditions under which we have knowledge, the conditions under which we can accept a hypothesis or a theory, and the conditions under which we have to reject them. Ethics, which is what I'm writing my dissertation on in order to graduate soon, is the concern with values. It's an interesting thing about human beings. Not only do we study things with curiosity and wonder, but we also do something very interesting. We value things, we esteem things, we appraise the value of things. And that's a very, very interesting phenomenon, especially from a cultural point of view. When you're studying nature, metaphysics and epistemology, they rock. They're the deepest, probably. But once you switch over to ethics, which is a branch of axiology, ethics, like axiology, is concerned with values. What are values? When someone says that something is right and Something is wrong, something is good, something is bad, something is beautiful, something is ugly. What is all that? What is all that? Those sound like values. It sounds like they're valuing things, they're esteeming things, they're evaluating things. But what are the sources of value? And under what conditions, if any, do values stop being just mere subjective opinions and become universal and binding on everyone, objectively? Very interesting, right? If you say Tupac is the greatest rapper, or Osuna is better than Maluma, okay? You just weighed something. That's your taste, right? That's your taste. You just rank something more than other. You have two values, and you rank one higher than the other. So ethics is ranking things in terms of what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong. And then the other part of axiology is called aesthetics, which has to do with beauty. What makes something art? What makes something beautiful? And then the last branch we're really going to focus on, we have metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, and then finally, we'll talk about what's called existentialism. Remember that crisis I was telling you about, called the crisis in values, coming from Copernicus and Darwin, the cultural side of things? Well, that crisis really came to a head in a historical movement known as existentialism. Existentialism is the study of the conditions under which life has value, significance, and meaning. Right? Once you get that crisis of values coming out of Copernicus and Darwin and other factors, well, some philosophers like Nietzsche would say, we have a death of God. God is dead. So we are all nihilists. We are experiencing nihilism, the belief that life has no intrinsic meaning, value, or significance. Life is valueless, meaningless. And if you truly believe that life is valueless and meaningless, well, what are you likely to consider doing? One bad thing in particular. Many bad things, because nothing has any value, so you can do whatever you want because nothing has any value. But what about yourself? If you have no value, what might you consider? Yeah, suicide. Okay, guys, that's an overview of the major branches of philosophy we're going to cover. So we've got 4 minutes. The main things you need to know is that these are the meeting times from 6:35 to 7:50, Mondays and Wednesdays in this room. I'll send an email to clarify it to other people who may not have come today. It's on the syllabus. All of that information is on the syllabus. On Blackboard. I'm going to go on Blackboard right now. I'm going to put the student view so I can see how you see Blackboard. Good. Okay. So once you log into Blackboard, this is what it's going to look like. On the left-hand side, you're going to see announcements. I'll be making announcements regularly. Then you'll see where it says syllabus. Do you see where it says syllabus? You click on the syllabus, and there's the syllabus as an attachment. Then, under course documents, there's weekly lectures. So on top, there's Zoom meetings where you can see records of upcoming and previous meetings and records of meetings, recordings. And there's also weekly lecture notes. These weekly lecture notes are nice summaries, but also very deep sort of musings or ponderings or wonderings that will help prepare you for the deep reflections that I will ask for you in your assignments. I'm not going to talk about the details of the assignments now. We've got plenty of time. But I just want you to know that on Blackboard, there are 2 big documents now available to you. What are they? 2 important documents. What are they? The syllabus and the notes for this first class. I'll be making those notes available each class. So you'll always have the syllabus. You can access it whenever you want. You'll always have the notes for each week, 14 weeks in total, guys. And then you'll also always have access to the recordings of each class if you want to go over it, like what the actual lecture was like. All right, guys. So I think now that you know Blackboard, I'll be sending out messages today and tomorrow to clarify a couple of things. So we don't have to go into detail about that. But the one thing on the syllabus that I do want to emphasize is that right now, what you need to know is that for the rest of the semester, in each of your seats, which you've been assigned for health and sanitation purposes, please go back to the same seat you've been assigned for the rest of the semester. Makes it easier in case someone comes down with COVID to track who is surrounding that person. If everyone sits different places every time, tracking becomes a nightmare. You see that? But if we know where everyone was sitting, then the moment we identify them as having COVID positive, then we can quarantine accordingly and isolate. So, okay, I'm sorry for taking too long. We're at the end. I just want to take attendance, and then we'll be done. Do you know how to copy and paste on a Dell?
Use control and click the link.
Oh. Control. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to take this link and I'm trying to take this link so I can show you the seating arrangements. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. We have a document here that says in-person attendance and assigned seating. So, for those of you who are showing up on campus for every class, not the remote people, but for those who are showing up, you have an assigned seat with a number. Do you see right here where it says seat number? All right, I have a question. Are you currently sitting at your seat number? Everyone, raise your hand if you're sitting at your seat number. Okay, so someone in the back is not?
I thought it was 11, but I guess.
Okay. Let's just take 2 minutes to sort that out. So this is the whole list. You don't have to sit exactly where you are. The first thing I want you to make note of is this web address so that you can know where your seat is. And I have reason to believe that this will be updated at least for a while as different people become remote and different people start attending. So just check this pretty regularly, especially during the beginning of the course. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take attendance and I'm going to focus just on who's here and what seat you're in. And it seems like only one or two people are not in their assigned seat. All right, so tell me your name and your seat number. All right, let's start all the way from there and go all the way across this first row. Name and seat number. A-M-Y? W? Seat number? 3. And that's
Oh,
what
wait,
you...
7, sorry.
Sorry.
Nine across.
Okay, gotcha. And that's what you were assigned.
Yes.
All right. Next. Frederick?
Hendrick.
H-E-N-D-R-I-C-K?
No C.
Okay. And then?
C.
No, your last name.
Lamb. L-A-M.
Okay. And then?
C.
Thank you. Yes?
Anastasia Renilla,
Okay. I think I know how to spell Anastasia.
with double I.
No, I don't. Okay. A-N-A-S-T.
I-I-A.
Okay, great. Anastasia,
Vereneva, V-E-R-E-N-E-D-A.
B-E-R-E,
Yeah, N-E-D-A.
N-E-D-A.
Yeah.
Veronetta. Thank you. And what number?
5.
Okay, next,
Julia Mariano.
Julia.
Yes.
Okay, 2 I's,
No.
3,
J-U-L-I-A.
and
M-A-R-I-A-N-O.
M-A-R-I,
A-N-O.
and what?
N-O.
Oh, and oh, Mariano.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, and?
C2.
Okay, great. Next row from over there.
Nick.
N-I-C-K,
Yes. Rubinetti. R-U-B-I-N-E-T-T-I.
okay, R-U-B-E-N-I-T-T-I, right?
R-U-B-I-N-E-T.
Oh, R-U-B-I-N. Oh, sorry. R-U-B-I-N-I-T-T-I.
E-T-T-I.
Oh, E-T-T-I. Okay. And seat number?
13.
Thank you. Next.
Sarah.
S-A-R-A-H.
Yes. And then Carver, C-A-R-R-A-H-E-R.
C-A.
R-R-A-H-E-R.
Okay, great. And
C-12.
thank you. Next.
Laura Vieira.
Okay.
L-A-U-R-A. V-I-E-I-R.
B-I-R-I.
V-I-E-I-R.
Vieira.
Vieira. But in English,
Vieira.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, seat number?
11.
Okay, great. Next.
Alessandro, double S. Rivera.
What?
Rivera. R-I-V-E-R-A.
R-I.
V-E-R-A.
Rivera. Okay, great. Number?
9.
Great. Next.
Ashley Moreno.
M.
O-R-E-N-O.
Okay.
Seat number 8.
Great. Next. Oh, sorry, from over there.
Chris.
Chris.
C-H-R-S.
Yeah.
W-O-N-G.
W-O-N-G and number?
19.
Thank you. Next.
Dante, D-A-N-T-E.
Yeah.
Sorrentino, S-O-R-R-E-N-T-I-N-O, and I'm 18.
And E-R-E, okay, E-N-T-I,
N-O,
okay. And then number?
18.
18, great. Next.
Dominic Spurchak.
Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C.
C-K.
Oh, C-K, okay.
And my last name is spelled S. B,
S-D,
S, B as in Victor.
uh-huh,
R,
uh-huh.
C, E, K.
How do you pronounce that?
Spurchak.
Spurchak, okay, great. Number?
16.
16.
Yeah.
Next.
P-H-P-A-R-D-E.
P-H what?
P-A-I-G-E,
P-A-I-G-E.
yeah, Inslee, I-N-S,
The next name is what?
Inslee, I-N-S,
I-N-S-L-E-E.
L-E-E,
Great. Number?
14.
And the last?
Jocelyn, J-O-S-C-E-L-E-L-N.
J-O-S-C-E-L. Jocelyn.
Jocelyn,
Y-N.
yeah,
Sorry, and then
Tagia, P-A-G-L-I-A,
P,
yeah,
P-A-G-L,
L-I-A, yeah, L-I-A,
L-I-A, Paglia.
yes,
Okay, great. And number?
22.
22?
Yeah.
All right, so it was a pleasure meeting you. I'll see you next class. I'll have these recordings up as soon as possible. Please review your seating chart one more time to confirm if you're in the right seat, and do your daily symptom checker. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Every time you're on campus, they want you to do that. I have to do it. All right, guys, it was a pleasure meeting you. See you next class.
I am three, sorry, I sat in the wrong seat, I keep confusing my class.
Oh, Amy?
Yes,
3?
yes,
All right,
sorry.
great.
That's not like
I'm done.
Any question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just have a quick question, regarding the. Where are you from?
Oh, okay, great, yeah, I'd love to catch up with you. So, my story is, I was born in a small town in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. It's called Boone, and that's where my parents met at two small sort of like community colleges in that city. It's a college city, and so they met there, and then they got married. Now my father is from Kenya. Same country Obama's father was from.
Yeah.
And my mom is North American. My mom is African American. So for the most part, I identify as African American since I'm an African. I have the African part and I have the American citizenship, and also my mom is African American. So I consider myself African American. And so the story is after we met and they got married, I was born in '81 in Boone. Then I moved to Charlotte, which is a big banking city now in North Carolina. Bank of America has its headquarters there. Really? That's a wonderful school, man. That's a great school. Is he undergrad?
Yes, he is.
What is he studying?
He's studying, he's doing finance or accountability and political science.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So political science, we're not going to go into very much deep depth here, but there's one philosopher, his name is John Rawls. You should ask your brother about this. You guys could get some coffee or some beers and talk about it, but we're going to go pretty deep on that one guy. He wrote a really great book about his vision of what politics should be like and what a fair society would look like. We're going to go into it a little bit. So me, I was born in North Carolina, raised in Charlotte until age 7. Then my father and my mom decided to move to where my father's from. And all the way up until end of high school, I was in Nairobi, Kenya, which is the capital city. And then after I finished there, I was very blessed. I did well at that school. It's one of those, back when I went to high school, Kenya was one of those places where, honestly, the schools were very, very competitive. Very, very competitive. So getting into a prestigious high school, it was like the biggest deal in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it opened up so many doors. And it did for me.
Yeah.
And not only did I go up to a prestigious high school, it was one in the top 3 in the country consistently. So I went to one of these very prestigious colleges, especially specializing in math and the natural sciences, biology, chemistry, physics. I came in thinking that, I wanted to be an astronaut and work for NASA and go to space.
Yeah.
But, that was just from, reading astronomy books and stuff and seeing space shuttle launches. But after I really saw the hardcore science behind, rocket launches and rocket science, once I really saw that all this boils down to chemistry and physics and things like that, and that they had a mathematical basis, and biology, oh my God, I was in love with biology, and all the beautiful life forms and species and all the variety of life. It blew me away. So by the time I was graduating, you know a presidential candidate called Ben Carson?
Of course.
Yeah. So I read one of his books called Gifted Hands, and he inspired me because I was loving biology for a minute, and I was like, oh wow, this thing called biology is not purely theoretical; it has real applications. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go where he went. And so what happened is, I found out that he went to Johns Hopkins for undergrad. No, he went to okay. So I read a little bit about him, and I associated him with Johns Hopkins. I didn't realize that he practiced medicine at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is one of the top hospitals. Like, it's always consistently between Harvard and Johns Hopkins. They're always rivals at 1 and 2. So when I saw Johns Hopkins, I didn't think clearly. I was like, all right, I'm going where he's going. I'm going to be a neurosurgeon, because he was a neurosurgeon before politics. So I read Gifted Hands and all that. I was like, all right, doing it. So I had my good GPA, my fancy GPA, 3.72 from a prestigious Kenyan, high school. And I was like, I'm going to apply to where he went, Johns Hopkins University. And that's the only place I'm going to apply. That's it. And I got in. I didn't apply anywhere else. So I got in, I was blessed again. And so I didn't realize that what made him reputable was his practice of neurosurgery for children, pediatric neurosurgery. He separated Siamese twins. He was the first doctor to successfully do that. So what he did, successfully, separated these twins. They both lived, grew up, and were fine. And his clout and his fame just went through the roof. He wrote these books. They were bestsellers. There was a movie. So I was like, okay, I'm going to Johns Hopkins. I didn't realize that that's an undergrad, that's a grad, that's a med school, and that's a hospital. And it's still a great school. It's a great school. I think when I applied and got in, I started in 1999. It was number 7, according to U.S. News and World Report. It's not an Ivy League. It's very good. Oh yeah. So it's really, really good. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we'll have all semester. We can spend as much time as we want. I'll have office hours every Monday from 5 to 6 out there, and I'll listen to whatever you want to talk about.
I was just curious because you said something in Spanish and then you mentioned a Buenos reference. I'm like, I wonder if you have like some Caribbean, Dominican, Puerto Rican maybe background.
Yeah, no,
I'm Puerto Rican, so
uh-huh.
you're saying assertion like Osuna is better than Mano, which I completely agree with. Got me excited.
Let me tell you something. Like, I fell in love with reggaeton when I moved to Miami. I don't know what it is, man. I mean, I was on YouTube, and I guess the very first song that I was introduced to. I had heard, Daddy Yankee back in the day, but the first one that really said, "Wow, this is reggaeton," was J Balvin with Te Lo Dije. Okay. So that song really said, "Oh, this is good, man. Good." And you know how YouTube is. Once you see something, they'll recommend all this stuff. So that for the past 5 years, I've been listening to tons and tons of reggaeton and paying attention to the different artists, the guys, the girls, the Puerto Ricans, the Colombians, the Cubans, right? The Miami people. And I'm just in love with it. It's my favorite type of music.
Same.
And the thing is that now with technology, you can really explore. If you like something, you can just listen and listen and listen and, see all the collaborations and the duos. You can, and for me, since I'm learning Spanish, I don't know Spanish well. Since I'm learning Spanish, one way that I really learn a lot is I watch the video, and it's kind of like watching a telenovela, right? You can watch all the drama, and then when you hear the Spanish, you pick up on, this might be that, this might be that. You know, you could, if you saw what happened, then you'll be like, okay, I kind of know what that is. So same with la letra. The letra for each canción, you can go to websites and they have the Spanish and the English.
Yeah.
So if Lunay is singing soltera, you just go, take all this, all that, and you go line by line. That's what I do. It's so many areas.
I actually play soccer with
Woohoo!
Lunay.
Are you, oh no, are you serious, man?
So Lunay, I'm 21. He's either my age or a year younger because, so to be exact, I used to play in a soccer club where I'm from in Dorado.
Mhm.
It's like 30 minutes from San Juan, the capital. And so I was, at the time, I was probably U15, and my brother was U13, and he played with my brother. But he was one of the big ones, so he would practice with us all the time interchangeably. And he was really good at soccer. I mean, he was one of the best from their team. And out of nowhere, he was really good, and he disappeared. Probably a year later, this like Christian rap song that he made. Like, have you heard the song Panda? Like,
No.
it's like it's an American rap song,
Uh-huh.
but he got the beat of that song called Panda, and made like a Spanish Christian song, like a rap, but it was Christian, and that went viral in the island. He disappears again. Literally, fast forward to 4 years later, 2019. I'm in my room in YouTube listening to music, and suddenly Luz Apagada comes up, and so Lunay. And I'm like, why does this guy seem familiar? And I text my brother. Like, my brother's named Giovanni. Giovanni, didn't this guy play with you? He's like, yeah, that's your thing. And we're like, what the heck? He changed his name. He's a rapper like Clay, but what is that? What the heck? So, yeah, I can't say that I was friends with him, but I did remember
You
playing
like,
soccer.
you actually, you were an acquaintance or something like that?
Yeah. We played against each other all the
Talked a little
time.
bit.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That is amazing. Like, I really just love it.
Yeah.
Music in general is my favorite part.
Yeah.
I'm learning more about painting and sculpture and architecture. And when I was in high school, I actually did a little bit of technical drawing, designing, 3D objects and stuff. And it was fun. My artistic side came out a little bit, but I was never really good at it, But I can't think of any other art that's as passionate as
Oh, yeah,
music,
for sure.
And like when I discovered, Ozuna, Mabuba J. Balvin, Bad Bunny, of course, people like this, when I discovered them, I was just like, oh my God, I have so much to discover and learn. And I bought a Spanish textbook. I studied Spanish for 2 years at Johns Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
Introductory for 2 semesters, and then intermediate for 2 semesters. I wanted to learn. And I did get some vocabulary, a little bit of grammar. But unfortunately, after a while, you don't practice.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn again. My landlord is a really cool Cuban gentleman, and he lives here in Miami. He's been here all his life, and we practice Spanish together. And I talk sometimes with a lot of the visitors who come, and just kind of like learn from them. And Miami is so diverse, all of Latinos, The Latinx community here, is it the biggest in the United States? Maybe New York?
Yeah, it's probably, yeah. I mean, New York is big. I would say it's 1 or 2, honestly, and I can't tell you because it is, I don't know, it's a good question. It's probably number 2, honestly, compared to New York. Or maybe it isn't.
In terms of total number of
in terms
Latinos?
of total numbers, I don't know the numbers. I would argue that it is.
Like Miami is the biggest in the country?
I would argue that.
Especially if you include Hialeah, right?
Absolutely, yeah, just all over. I mean, because, like, for example, I would argue that New York, it's diverse, it's a melting pot, but in terms of Latinos, it's mainly Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. Here you'll see everything, starting with the Cubans, the Venezuelans, and Honduran, Nicaragua. There's a large concentrated Central American population in Miami.
Yeah.
So I would say there's more Latinos in Miami, just in Florida in general, than New York as a state. But I'm in New York.
Absolutely excellent. I wish I could shake your hand. But
I know, it's
But maybe.
We'll stay in touch. We'll every time we do songs.
Yeah, I'll be having from 5 to 6 every Monday. Are there chairs on there?
I think that's the reflection, but there's like a little banquito there, like that.
Yeah. So I'll just sit with students, social distance, whatever, Just whatever you want to ask, you can. Let's catch up, man.
For
Because
sure, absolutely.
I have a lot to learn from you. You guys are so rich in culture. Everyone here has a different ethnic background. We've got different genders, different sexualities. I won't be able to address each one of those in philosophy, but philosophy is so rich and so deep
Yeah.
that if I wanted to introduce them, it would be no problem. You can philosophize about anything.
Oh, yeah.
And next class, after I get through the syllabus, you're going to see just how deep we can go. Before we get to ethics and all that stuff, just thinking about what philosophy is, there's so much to think about, man. And I'm looking forward to hearing everything you have to say, because my style of teaching is very interactive and discussion
And I love
oriented.
that. I love that.
I
That's-
prefer to hear, I'll say certain things, but I won't commit myself to them. I'll say them to provoke you to hear what you think.
Fair enough.
And that practice you get of speaking for yourself and hearing others' opinions and staying open-minded, that's really going to help you when you write your papers, your assignments, because I want you to really kind of like take it all in and digest it and struggle with it. Like, it seems like this, but I also got to think about this, so maybe not this or this, maybe this. You catch what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what philosophy is really about from an academic perspective. It's about writing thoughtfully and carefully, being persuasive.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I'm a religious studies major and French double major.
You're on religious studies?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
religious studies and French double major. So I wish the thing is, I had a similar story to you, sort of. I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico. I was blessed enough to go to one of the top 3 schools in the nation, or in the island, should I say, through scholarships. And because of that school, I was blessed with a full tuition scholarship here at UM. So,
God, oh my God,
Yes, yeah.
that is so, that's
Yeah.
God's grace,
absolutely, man, absolutely. I believe, God's good. God's been way too good to me. But, so I'm here, and I'm just grateful. This is my last year. I'm a senior, so I'm just trying to soak it all in as much as possible. And if there's one thing I regret is not taking philosophy courses from the beginning. I've taken religion courses from the beginning, but I came in thinking, I want to be a doctor like everyone. And, I just felt like that was my calling. I was passionate about that. My grades were evident, like in all arts and humanities and religion and history, I was A's. Chemistry, biology, all B's, C's, failed one class, so it was evident where my heart was. And I just felt called to ministry and to be a pastor. So I'm kind of balanced as to like whether I'm going to go to ministry or academia or both,
You inspire me so much. Like,
No.
a young man of faith today, that is like this. Christ said you're supposed to be salt of the earth and the light of the darkness. The idea that you are like pious and godly, or you try to be, with God's grace you are,
Yeah.
And you're unashamed of being a person of faith.
Yeah.
We need more of that. And we need more of that in philosophy. Because as I was telling you, science has been very authoritative.
Yep.
The authority of science has been
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
But it's not great when it becomes dogmatic.
Yeah.
So if science criticizes religion for being dogmatic, but you say, hey, wait a minute, you are also claiming a bunch of stuff. You're claiming the validity of certain methods of studying the world, and you're claiming the validity of certain results. Well, what entitles you to hold on to those results universal, right? You find out a little bit about, matter and, life and certain parts of nature, but how does that give you the right or the entitlement to say there's no God, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just like science can discipline religion, if someone like you who's passionate for God, if you incorporate philosophical discipline with your passion, then you might be in a position to say, hey, wait a minute, science, you're not being disciplined. Yes, you have some authority, but maybe your authority is only right here, not outside here.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good. I agree with that. And I find that a lot of students, it's funny because I was hearing you, and I really, with all due respect, I admire you a lot because I like professors who, based on your lecture, I wouldn't have known that maybe you were a religious person. And I like that because you're being objective to an extent.
Respectful.
Absolutely. And I like that. Because in the halfway through the lecture, I'm like, okay, he might be religious, he might be, a believer. And then you make some claims like, and science said this, so now we have science. And I'm like, oh, he's good. Because now I don't know. And I like professors like that. I like professors that leave me thinking, I wonder what they actually think. And I've gotten to know professors outside of the classroom, and they're like actually believers, but they're trying to teach a class from an objective point of view.
You don't want to alienate anyone.
Absolutely. I
Just like
agree.
you don't want to come up and be homophobic, you also don't want to come up and be anti-religion.
Absolutely, I agree.
You want to create an environment of respect,
Absolutely.
empathy. Someone says their point of view. Your initial reaction should be, oh, wow, that's what you think? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's what you think. Now let's probe it a bit. Why do you think what you think? Is there some data, some evidence? What are your sources? Or is it personal experience? And let's get into it.
Absolutely.
And so you dive into them, and they feel even more respect. They're like, man, he cares what I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then, God bless you. I look forward to spending more and more time with you.
Absolutely.
You can see I don't care about getting home as quickly as possible. So you rely on me as much as you want. Email me anytime. My email is going to be on top of
Yeah, I downloaded the syllabus, so I have it on.
So you can check the email time anytime you want. But I prefer you to come and see me in person, or
Sure,
whatever you
sure,
want to
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about. Because I have more to share with you. I went to law school,
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Harvard Law School,
Wow.
and
It's funny because like you're saying all these things, and sometimes I feel like, man, it's my last year, and I don't know whether to go into seminary or to go into law school. Because part of me is like, I want to get into politics, but part of me is like, no, I want to be a pastor. So I have so many different goals, if you will.
But you used a very interesting word, a word that I really like. You talked about a vocation. Because you see, in a secular society like what we have now, people just have professions, occupations. There are things that they do for money.
Yeah.
They probably don't really care about them. And their working conditions probably aren't so good. They're toxic, not just in the sense of bad working conditions, like, things are falling and poisonous or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they're toxic in the sense of they're hyper competitive. In a lot of these corporations, in management or whatever, it's a lot of competition, maybe for no reason, I don't know. Very individualistic, very opportunistic. And so it's just hustle, hustle, hustle. It's this hustle culture. And for what? So that you can live in the suburbs and do what?
Yeah.
That's a profession.
Yeah.
But a vocation, if you believe in God, and you believe that everything that you get is a gift from God,
Yeah.
and it's from His grace, oh boy,
Yep.
that changes things.
Absolutely.
Because that means you start to notice in yourself certain gifts.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, what is God telling me? How can I glorify Him the best?
Amen.
Oh man, we're gonna spend time. You
Oh,
get
absolutely.
home, man.
Absolutely.
God bless you. I have a really good friend who's Puerto Rican, man.
Oh yeah.
And I met him. Oh, man, he's about 3 years older than me. Eddie, he's a really cool guy, man. And we just spend a lot of time together for like a month and a half. He was telling me the history and the culture of
Yeah.
Puerto Rico. I think he's from Bayamon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Bayamon. And
Probably 20 minutes away from where I live. I go to Bayamon a lot just because I have friends who live there. I work with a lot of churches from Bayamon. I have my own, well, we just became a nonprofit organization, but I started my own ministry for youth in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wonderful.
And so maybe one day you'll see me with a shirt, and after class I'll let you know what it stands for. It's basically L4J, like letter L, number 4, and J, living for Jesus.
Mm.
And so we started that 4 years ago, and it's been great. And this year, obviously with COVID, we had to move online, and Pastor's been working crazy stuff through it. So one day I'll share more about that with you.
Yeah, I would like us to hang out during office hours,
Absolutely.
and you tell me about the future of ministry
Absolutely.
with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because, when I think about Pentecost, that was a gathering, but it wasn't in a temple.
Uh-huh.
So it's an indication that the Holy Spirit is not confined by physical structures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if that's true, then what's the future of Pentecost, right?
Yeah.
Maybe online stuff, I don't know, it feels a bit cold, I
Yeah.
wanna, abrazos,
Yeah, I agree.
I want
I
hugs,
agree. I agree.
But if for a while we have to do this, I would like to know what your thoughts are about the short-term future of ministry.
Yeah.
Maybe over the next 3 to 5 years, like
For sure.
what your organization is doing.
Yeah.
And man, it's a blessing. Dios te bendiga.
Amen.
All right, man. See you
Right,
later.
It was an honor meeting you.
Okay.